Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to GB Gaming. You're joining Bane once again for another episode of The Stowe Show, and I am joined as always by the wonderful Dragon 1608, Omega Fighter, and also joining us today is Spence from the Breakfast Club, our glorious fleet leader. We salute you, sir, to give us their thoughts on everything in the latest dev post, which actually gives us the stats. So this is the after stats show. We already did the pre-stats show, and that went down pretty well. You guys enjoyed it. We had a lot of feedback on that, and that was good. But now we're actually to tell you whether we were right or whether we were wrong with our guesses on how the ships would look. And I think for the most part, we were pretty right, guys?
Apart from one thing.
Apart from one thing, we had we were talking like the PvE and the PvP, and then we were like, yeah, this is going to be really good, and this is going to be really bad, and we kind of got it round the wrong way. And that is specifically we're going to come on to that about the Dreadnought and the Crossfield and how that will perform. So, yes, first of all, new post up got released today, 22nd of January 2018 for you guys that will catch up with the video, and the first thing I wanted to kind of just touch on is the unlocking of the faction restrictions, because before now everything has pretty much been restricted. So you'd have Federation, Klingon, Romulan would have their own stuff, but they finally said that if you're allied as a Romulan with the Federation or the Klingons, you may actually fly the Federation or Klingon ships. So first of all, how do you guys feel about that? I'll start with you, Dragon. Or not?
I think he said something about not being here for a second, but
did he?
I don't really. But okay, I'm Dragon now for a second.
You go first. These Dragons disappear. Go on.
What I think about this is basically simple. What they were initially saying is that Romulans would be excluded because they wanted to keep the IP, the canon. But obviously, in a game, it's hard to do that on every aspect. So they basically just went ahead and said, okay, Romulans who win the grand prize, they get the Discovery and can fly it. And if the Klingon allied Romulan would win, they would get the Sarcophagus and they could also fly it. So basically, it's good because Romulans aren't excluded. And in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether or not a Romulan aligned whatever could fly like these ships. It's just good to not exclude them. But also, if you were thinking you're Romulan and you get the Discovery and Sarcophagus consoles and everything cheap, well, no, you don't. Especially if you're Federation aligned, you have to get the Discovery and the Walker for the trades and the consoles. So, yeah, that's the downside, I guess. But since you can fly the ships, I guess that makes up for it. It's a two-edged sword. I mean, if you were interested in the ships, you're good. If you weren't and you just wanted the gear, you're not.
But playing devil's advocate, though, and I think this is where I'll get Spence to come in, I think, we'll see if his opinion as well. But do you guys not think that this could also be looked at by the players as in, well, Cryptic just aren't bothering with like doing something special for the Romulans? Or is it because there is no Romulans in Discovery so far, hence there'd be no point having a Romulan ship in the Discovery lockbox?
I believe the thing here is that because they haven't introduced the Romulans in Discovery yet, they don't want to design a ship and then later on have Discovery introduce Romulan ships that are completely different.
Which is a fair point. And the thing is, we don't actually know whether we will ever see Romulans in Discovery because it is all based on that Federation Klingon War. But it's one of those double-edged swords, isn't it? As we said, where it could be that they just are waiting and biding their time to see if Discovery does that. And of course, if they do, I'm pretty sure that knowing Cryptic, they'll be releasing a Romulan vessel as soon as they can get their hands on one.
They could. I mean, they could do add it like in a low-buy store later on or something.
Yeah, something like that. Or maybe they're just doing a whole new lockbox. Discovery Lockbox 2.
That'd be a first.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So which brings us so that's nice for the Romulan players because they actually get something out of this lockbox rather than feeling just kind of like, well, we've got nothing. So we've got the Crossfield class that was released first. So this is a Crossfield class Science Vanguard Tier 6. We spoke about that last time. We kind of had a look at what we felt it would turn out like, and they've given us the ship details. So first thing I touched on, hull strength 52,000 at level 60. That's pretty high. What do you guys think about that? Do you think she's a tough ship, first of all?
Yeah, it's if I remember correctly, that's as much as the Anorex has, and that chip costs like 1.4 billion. It's pretty heavy. I would say for a ship at that like category, a science ship with secondary deflector, with that okay turn rate, actually, it's 52,000. It's pretty respectable. The shield modifier obviously suffers a bit from that, but it's not too bad. I mean, I'd say it's gonna be one of the more tanky science ships.
And the only thing, well, I suppose again, I'll ask Spencer this. Are you happy with the bridge officer layout on the Crossfield? Because it's a bit, I would say it's underwhelming, because Lieutenant Universal Temper Operative, Lieutenant Commander Universal Intelligence. I think there are science ships that do both much better. So it's a kind of a weird.
It is. When I go and compare this to what I consider an ideal science ship, like the Sphere Builder Edolg, I'm not really that whelmed by this ship. It's just not really that appealing.
Yeah.
It'll be okay, but it's not going to be the best science ship ever.
I mean, I love the way they. I always admire critics that bullet point can load your cannons. No, but Dragon, what do you think? Because you're a heavy science player like myself. Would you buy the Crossfield to use as a competitive ship in any way, PvE or PvP?
PvE is not my domain really for science ships. So just go what SOBS said there. But PvP wise, to me, it could be a solid ship. The hull strength is pretty good, but it doesn't really stand out from anything. It has only Lieutenant Commander Universal Intel, so you don't get the very high intel abilities, and you don't get any good temporal abilities for let's say disabling or support or anything. So, and the 10 degrees turn rate kills it kind of for me for PvP. I know there are ships that have less and work with PvP, but they all have something special, and this ship really doesn't.
That's a fair assessment. So we're not too excited about the ship, other than the fact,
stats, but the visuals, of course.
Well, yeah, the visuals. That's what I was going to come on to. The visuals kind of make. I mean, she's a beautiful looking ship. She's Discovery. She's, you know, I think the model's pretty good, as we said in the last episode. You know, true to it. Obviously, that brings us kind of nicely onto things. First of all, I'm going to mention it because a lot of people did actually ask about this. If we guys could mention how we feel about the Admiralty ship cards. I know they don't do much. If you know what Admiralty is basically a system that's in the game. You can use the ship cards when you get these ships on these Admiralty missions. So people did ask, a bit like Top Trumps, whether we could comment. Do we like the ship card? Anyone want to jump in on that one? How do you feel about the ship card?
Yeah, it's a good card.
Yeah, it's not bad. 59 science.
And 2.5 critical rating from science, which is something that you can always use to push up the crit and get more like XP out of it. Which is, you know, I mean, it's a good Admiralty card. It's like not the best one ever. That's still the tiniest, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's not bad. So yes, if you do get the ship, then you'd be very happy to have this card, basically, guys, especially with the critical from science on it. So, but the real meat of it is the Mycelium ambush. We're going to start off with first. So, I can't remember what we said. What information did we have in the last episode about this?
Basically, they didn't add any information regarding what we said. There's no like exact stats. They didn't give us any numbers. So all it says is what the passive bonus provides and kind of what it does. And what it did, we already knew. And the passive bonuses we wouldn't really speculate on them. They seem okay, but we have to wait how much control drain and exotic we get from this.
It's
EPG,
not all too much. It's probably around 10 to 20 max.
Yeah,
10 to 20 each. So,
yeah.
And we kind of still, really, until we get the stats of it, we see something more. We're kind of guessing how good it's going to be. So,
the passive will be probably okay. The clicky will be probably PvE irrelevant. I mean, for the space Barbie, honestly, for that jump, that's one massive reason to use it. I guess that will be the main reason people will use it, to just look epic teleporting around. I mean, I understand. I'll do that too. I just fold space and do a spore jump. Why not?
Spence, any feelings on Mycelium Ambush? Because we didn't get your take on it, obviously, in the last episode. Does it excite you, the console, and possible chances of what? Because we don't know exactly the stats or what the ability exactly does, but we got a feel for it.
I want to see the exact numbers.
Want to see the exact numbers?
Each slot I have has a lot of competition, so for me to slot a console, it has to have something really, really good on it.
So wait and see on that one, guys. We will, of course, try to bring you an update on this in the next Stowe show when we've got the stats and we know a little bit more about it. We'll try and get that information to you. Black Alert Starship trait. So if you get your Science Vanguard up to the top level, for 12 seconds after activating Beam Control Overload, Cannon Rapid Fire, any Intel Bridge Officer ability, you will get weapon damage to foe, and it creates a spored duplicate which attacks the foe and up to 2 other foes, dealing kinetic damage to each before disappearing. Base damage is approximately 4,000 per target at level 60. Up to 4 total spored duplicates may be created, max once per 3 seconds. Omega, feelings?
Okay, feelings. This seems... I think the number is already a bummer. If you think about it, you're going to only spawn 4 spores every... duplicates every 25 seconds. So if you think about it, they can attack up to 3 foes, and they do 4,000 per target. So that's 12,000, times 4. You're gonna get like 50,000 damage out of it every 25 seconds. That's base damage, but to me, that's not exactly impressive. I mean, I have my dual heavy cannons on my build hit for that much, and they spam all over the place. So to me, if you want for as a practical use, it seems to be pretty bad.
So, same feeling for you, Dragon?
Yes.
Yes, bad. And Spence?
Not worth a Starship trait.
This is one of the worst Starship traits
ever known to the game. So, there you go. That's the feelings on Black Alert. Plus, it had a terrible, terrible sound effect in Discovery as well. so there you go. So, all in all, how are we feeling about the Crossfield class now, guys? If you had to give it out of 10, what would you give it based on what you know now? Obviously, ignoring that we don't have the console yet.
Okay, so I personally would give it let's separate it. For the looks, for the modeling, I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10. They did that really good. For the ship's stats and everything, like the ship itself, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. And for the Admiralty card is obviously very good. I'd give that a 8. And the console/trades, well, trades for me is more like a 2 out of 10, and the console is classified. So,
Dragon, your feelings?
Yeah, I can't argue with it. That sounds reasonable. I guess.
And same for you, Spence?
I mean, that you can make the bridge officer layout work and make it work for PvE, so I'd have to give it a 7 out of 10.
A 7 out of 10. Okay, guys. So, not the best score. The trait is certainly considered garbage, let's put it that way. So, if you're thinking about buying this for Stowe, you can make it work. That's what the guys are saying, but it may not be the best, or at least the most competitive. And we'll, of course, bring you an update on the console at the very least in the future. So hopefully, maybe that'll show some light to us about the Crossfield class, but we'll wait and see. The Walker class Light Exploration Cruiser is up next, another Tier 6 ship. This is obviously the Shenzhou, and it's, stats-wise, 53,000, level 60 for hull strength. Shield modifier 1.15, 5 weapons, 3 aft weapons, device slots. How are you feeling about this? I'll start with you, Omega, because this is kind of more your...
Okay,
Dragon does fly escorts as well.
Okay,
but...
we have a lot of people that just like to, do their role play or do their, feel STO, feel like they're on a ship that's heavy, that can tank something, that can dish out some damage, that can do everything. And I'd say for those guys, they will feel just at home. It has, for a cruiser, a decent turn rate, 5-3. That's my personal favorite anyway. It has an okay hull amount. The shield modifier seems decent. The bridge officer layout, I feel in terms of specializations, it's really weak. Like only 3 specialization slots, in total. That's really weak. I'd say the bridge officer layout in itself is okay, but the specialization part of it is utterly useless. And the console, well, obviously that's below, but we don't see the stats here yet either. And and obviously it's a heavy cruiser, so you get the resistances, you get the strategic maneuvering, all that. So I'd say for the guys that like the heavy ships with a better turn rate than average and 5-3, good ship bridge officer layout doesn't stand out.
Okay, there you go, guys. Dragon, same feelings?
Yeah, pretty much. Omega, it said pretty much everything.
Okay.
It's a cruiser. I mean, it's a pretty much standard cruiser. It doesn't stand out at all.
So there you go.
Except the 5-3, maybe that's a good.
It's a good stat. You happy with that? Spence, anything to add to that?
It's I mean, in PvE it'll do fine, but there's already so many other cruisers that will do so much better.
Okay. Admiralty card. Happy with the Admiralty card?
It looks okay. It's I mean, a science it has high engineering. It has okay attack, and the science is the same as attack, but it adds for almost any other ship you could add to it. I'd say it's for if you want to rate me that Admiralty card, it's a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Obviously, we don't know what the console does yet. We're still waiting to get the pure stats on that. We kind of have an idea, don't we?
It explains what it does. It says basically that your ship gets disabled, frozen for up to 20 seconds, and that you get an ambush bonus after it, as long as you have been disabled. We don't know how high the ambush bonus is, but if that's like a good number, if it's gonna be Cat 2, it's like say 50% or more. For PvE, this will be pretty bad because you don't really want to freeze yourself.
But for PvP.
For PvP, this might be good, depending on how visible the animation of the console is. And if everybody can see you're there, it kind of ruins the point.
Actually,
for PvE, it might be great, like for pre-made runs, for like your beloved nanny runs, and you sit there at the start and you wait for everyone to be ready, and everybody hits this console and then goes in. That might be extremely interesting.
Spence.
I was just thinking about something with the console. So you hit it when the Queen's feedback pulse starts in Hive Space Elite, and then when the feedback pulse ends, you come out of it with that whatever the damage buff is.
Yeah, that's where it applies, but it's a very a niche. Most people don't play Hive Space Elite or Hive Space in general. So I'd say for it's a really niche console. You might like it in PvP, which is a niche area. You might like it for certain queues, which is that not many people play, and you might like it for nanny runs or pre-made runs for PvE. But these are all areas where where most people just don't fit in. So while it might be an interesting console in what it does, I don't think the actual applications will be widely available.
Okay. Which brings us kind of nicely onto the Starship trait. So again, achieving top tier, you will, upon entering combat, get to plus 20 energy weapon armor penetration for 8 seconds, plus 20 energy weapon shield penetration for 8 seconds, and minus 50 weapon power cost for 8 seconds. So how are we feeling about this?
Okay, so I hope they main percent, because they just look at percent. We don't know if it's a percent armor pen, if it's percent shield pen, or I assume it is. So let's just go with that. And in that case, for PvP, pretty decent. Pretty good. Especially if there's cloak guys that go in and go out and come back, that's great. For PvE, no way that's gonna be useful, because since you're gonna be stuck in combat, it's worthless. You'd still run your emergency weapon cycle for weapon power cost, and well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, for dive-in PvP action or your private games or whatever, it may be interesting, but
it's one of those things. I definitely think it's, as we discussed last episode, it's more of a PvP sort of trait than a PvE one, because you are literally in combat all the time in PvE, so you won't really get that. Well, there's ways to get out of combat, isn't there, to be fair?
But then you compromise.
But why would you? Yeah, why would you? You wouldn't need to. Spence, you do a lot of PvE. What's your thoughts?
This is a completely worthless trait for PvE due to the fact that you have to get out of Red Alert and then go back into Red Alert for it to trigger. I've had to explain that to a few people already, that this doesn't mean when you enter combat versus a specific target. It's when you enter combat in general.
And would you use it in PvP?
Yes, on a Fate build.
on a vape build. Those all important vape builds, which everybody loves. So this is the problem with this is it is a niche trait. But again, you may get the ship so that you can get this particular trait if you are interested in PvP. I suppose for us in TVC, especially in the PvP team, it will be a wait and see how many people are actually running this particular trait on their builds. I know you will, just because I know what you're like. So yeah, it's a good trait if you run vape builds, as people like to run. So lots of dropping in and out of combat. So overall impressions on the ship then. If you had to rate it again out of 10, Dragon.
Since it's a cruiser and I'm mainly PvP focused, I don't see the use for it pretty much in a PvP match. But the trait looks really interesting for vapors. And the console, yeah, depending if you can be shot at while you are disabled, that can be either very good or very bad. So
what would you give it out of 10?
I have to split it. The cruiser as itself, the ship with its stats, it's probably, for me, it's a 5 or a 4, since yeah, the use is pretty limited. The console, I can't rate it right now, since I don't really know how it performs. And the Starship trait, well, it has a limited use, but on the Vapor it seems pretty good. So the Starship trait is probably an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Agree on that, Omega?
I guess for your PvE guy, I didn't think giving it a 4 is a bit overkill on the ship itself. I'd say give it a 6 for like the average player. It's an okay ship, not great, not bad. It's just, usable.
If you could think of a cruiser that exists, Spence, that's similar to this, what would you say is another cruiser that's kind of similar to this
Tier 6 Miranda.
I didn't realise you were called Spence. That's
yeah, no, right, but it's just instantly. I mean, I had it in my mind. This is just like a Tier 6 Miranda particularly.
I don't know. There's some stuff that looks somewhat comparable, I'll say, to the Arbiter, but it's a worse Arbiter overall because the pilot seat, only the ensign engineering and intel, that really limits it. So I'd give this a 5 or a 6 out of 10.
Okay, guys, so there you are. So, yeah, maybe it might be worth getting for the trait if you like to PvP, and then we don't know enough yet about the console, but again, we'll bring you an update when we get it. So, but if you just want a standard cruiser, get the Arbiter instead. Or the Tier 6 Miranda, Omega says. You heard it here first. So, we are now moving on to the one that we completely misjudged for a few reasons, which was the Sarcophagus Dreadnought carrier at Tier 6. Which is obviously the massive clean on ship of the dead in Discovery. We'll start off just by recounting some of the stats. So we've got a hull strength at level 60 of 67,000. Well, it's kind of expected because it is a carrier and they usually have good hull levels, but that is still quite high. Shield modifier of 1.05. Pretty standard weapons loadout. If we go to the bridge officers, one Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Engineering, a Lieutenant Science, an Ensign Universal / Miracle Worker, and a Lieutenant Commander Universal / Command. Base turn rate of 4 degrees per second, so it's turning really slowly. And pretty standard Starship Mastery package. How are we feeling about this? Well, I'm going to start with Spence this time. Spence, what do you feel about the overall ship stats and layout?
Well, the turn rate is amazing. It's a very, very good cannon boat, of course. But the bridge officer layout is very bad in the universal seatings there. You get an Ensign Miracle Worker. All of the good Miracle Worker abilities are at the Lieutenant Commander plus level, from what I remember. So the Miracle Worker seat may as well not be there. And Command, I'm not a big fan of Command. If you're using Torps or you want to use Rally Point Marker, those are really the only 2 reasons to use Command seat. So not too much of a fan of the ship.
So the ship not appealing to you. Not appealing to you, let's put it that way. Dragon,
Yeah, I have a question here for Omega and Spencer maybe. 67k hull, is that actually the new maximum?
No, I think there's I think the J has 68,000.
Okay, but okay, it's pretty close then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it the Oregon carrier had 68,000? One ship had 68,000. I remember.
Okay, so concerning the ship, I like my ships to turn fast and fly fast. So and then 4 degrees per second and impulse mod of 0.13. That's really bad. And also inertia of 20. Even if you get it up to speed, it will take forever to slow down.
Okay, guys, let me correct myself. That is the highest new. It's the new highest, 67,000. The last was 65,000.
Okay, so 65. Oh, okay. See, then it's even a bigger difference than I thought. Yeah, Spencer pretty much covered the bridge officer stations. Not of much use. You can make it work, but again, turn rate and impulse mods cancel out for me.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Okay, I'm gonna still get it because the cloaking is epic, but
yeah, the cloaking
anything
device
that
looks
might have
really,
made
really
the
good.
ship appealing as flying, like the turn rate, I just don't understand how they can bring 4. And remember, the J has 5. This ship is probably gonna be in space and SEO gonna be almost as large as the Enterprise J, which is gonna be impressive. I mean, for big boys here, especially us Klingons, they'll be happy about that, being the big guy. But the fact is, 4 degrees, I have to put that into perspective. A build of mine with the Vengeance, which has a base rate of 7, I might get up to a bit about 20. So it's usable. But if you have 4 base, that's almost half that. So the actual maximum you might get out of this ship with a regular build where you don't run 5 RCS consoles is what, 12? That's just atrocious. And the fact that they allow you to put dual cannons on there, that's just giving you the finger as a player. You're
That's the big troll there.
I mean, because the lowest turn rate ship and you can put dual cannons on there. That's just, I don't know.
You wouldn't run dual cannons on it?
Yeah, you could run dual cannons. You might attack one target at the start, and then you're not going to use them for the rest of the match because you're never going to be able to align it again.
It's basically a Star Wars Star Destroyer in Star Trek, right? That's what we're saying.
I mean, in order to fly in a circle, you would have to it would take you almost over half a minute.
So it is pretty much a Star Destroyer then. So the Admiralty ship card, how do we feel about
that? Let me see.
I don't rate it that highly.
Okay, it ignores Eng from events. There's a lot of events that add 100 Eng, so for that it's great. I like my Kronos, for example, that has the same effect. So this is the fact that it removes the event extra. It's pretty good to have these. I'd give it an 8, to be honest, because those cards you can't have enough of.
Yeah, Admiral card seems pretty good.
I don't know.
Well, look, there's events.
Already a few ships that have those. Mind you, it's an extra one.
I only know one ship that removes Eng from events. That's the Kronos. I don't have any other that does. And I mean, there's events that add plus 100 on Eng. So for those, you'd like it.
So you rate an 8, okay. Spence card.
I mean, it's a good card. All of these have been good cards so far, so I'd give that a 7 or 8.
So just get the ships to the cards, is what you're saying, yes?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're if you're made of EC, you might as well.
If you're a card collector, then get the cards. Okay. Multi-target tractor arrays. We kind of have a feeling of how this will work. 12 tractor arrays. But again, we don't really have the fixed stats yet again, so I guess we'll have to come back to the console.
Yeah, all the passive they added looks okay as a passive, I mean, but it's not anything we really can talk about now.
Yeah.
And now the big thing, guys, the big thing.
This is the one we got wrong, massively got wrong, because we were kind of assuming that it wasn't going to be very good, and then we got the stats and we were like, okay, Cryptic have kind of lost their minds. So, after receiving 10,000 cumulative damage, pre-resistance, keywords, pre-resisting, gain a stack of Honor Dead.
I mean,
each stack, they can't even say it with a straight face. Each stack of Honor Dead grants plus 20 all damage resistance rating and plus 2% hull regeneration. Has a max stacks of 20 and it has an infinite duration. If you get to 20 stacks on undead, additional triggers instead grant 10,000 temporary hit points for up to 40 seconds. While not in combat, lose 1 stack on undead every 2 seconds unless cloaked.
Okay.
So,
put that into perspective. This is virtually, if you stay alive long enough, this is a god mode. From what we presume. I mean, let me just put it into perspective. This can put you get you 400 all damage resistance. So in case you ever run anything that gives you all damage resistance, oh, you don't need that anymore. That has been just taken care of for the rest of your entire existence if you run this trade. The whole regeneration up to 40%, which is an okay amount. It's not going to blow you away. I guess on the amount of hull, if you fly this ship with 67,000, it might actually make a massive difference. But generally, like 40% whole regen is okay. But once you max out those stacks, which in PvP will happen very fast. We're talking only 200,000 damage pre-resistance, which even in PvE can happen quite quickly, especially in elite queues, that you're gonna get these stacks very fast. And once these stacks accumulated, you're gonna get temporary hit points equal to the damage coming in, so to speak. And if it's pre-resist, while temporary hit points don't have resist, if this trait triggers onto temporary hit points, it's a god mode. So if your temporary hit points deplete and you get, again, 10,000, it's a god mode. And even if not, it's going to make you virtually unkillable. So in PvE, this is going to be perfect, like for high space elite or queues like Corfes elite, all these high-end queues, or if you just don't want to worry about durability, this is going to be a godsend. And in PvP, yeah, this is going to be yet another thing that's just going to frustrate everyone, especially if you can't nuke it off. And the best part is, you get out of combat, the stacks would deplete, but if you cloak, you're just gonna keep them. So you can come into combat and have everything, 400 all res, and get spam with temporary hit points. So whatever Cryptic did there, I think they just hit their head on the keyboard and was like, okay, that's it, we're done here.
So I'm really looking forward. I don't know about you, Dragon, but I'm looking forward to flying a Scryer. How do you feel?
It's utterly ridiculous. The plus 400 damage resistance rating, that's...
If you
I don't
hit
know
your
what happened
DPRM,
there. It needs to be nerfed immediately.
I mean,
I
put it
can't
like this.
imagine a good match in PvP where everyone runs this trait. I don't think anyone will die anymore.
Especially because of every federation and most players are federation aligned, they can just get this from a box for like a couple million. So everybody can have this. And the worst part is that you can just maintain it, and you have bonus resistance as well. This is like probably going to be Cat 1 resistance, obviously. And then you run something like the competitive 3-piece. You hit the DPRM and your resistance is going to be above 90% all like across the board. So, yeah.
You know what'll happen is after everyone's bought it because it's so good, they'll go in and nerf it.
Now, of course, they will nerf it. I mean, if you run competitive 3-piece and this, you can maintain 80% all resist all the time. Easily. That's what it is, and it's gonna heal you with, or give you temporary hit points so fast. If you have an okay amount of regen, like say you run Miracle Worker and this, you're just not gonna die. It's just absurd.
Spence, let me ask you honestly: is this the best Starship trait currently available?
We'll have to
for
see
PvP?
it in action to know for sure,
Mhm.
because 400 damage resistance. This is just normal resistance, so
It's like
it will have
70%.
diminishing returns. Yeah,
It's like 70-something%. There's a counter that gives 500 all damage resistance, so we can go from that, and that one puts me to about 80%. So this might be about 70%. If you have,
But it's all the time.
yeah, it's all the time. And if you have bonus resistance like a DPRM or the competitive 3-piece, that's where it becomes really absurd. Because that's
Okay.
so well that you're just gonna be.
The thing is, like, given the current sort of meta, the way people use traits, most people are running around. Let's look at it from another angle. If you have this trait and you also have something like Zal, and then you've also got who's like Shield Overload and all these kind of like specialist traits that PvPers tend to have. Even if you run Temporal as well, pretty much you're becoming to the point that you are indestructible.
If you run like continuity, competitive 3-piece, all this, and you have like a decent heal, you're like in a science ship, you have like hazard mirrors that heal you for like 100,000, you're not going anywhere.
It's kind of like, it's good for science, especially. It's good for everybody, but
I mean, it's bad for everyone. I mean, as well.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be the big one. The big question is, can it be sub-nuked? That's the big question. If it can be sub-nuked...
I think it's not going to be nukeable because it says infinite duration. I don't know any buff that has an infinite duration that's nukeable.
What do you feel, Spence? Sub-nukeable or not sub-nukeable? If you had to bet your money.
I'm just knowing Cryptic, it won't be nukeable. Just watch.
So I think what we're going to say is oh my god, for a Fed, if you want a PvP or even PvE, because it's so good in both, then
For
you're
most
going to
people,
want this
it's
trade.
cheap. For most people, it's cheap.
Well, there is one issue here, though, is if it is nukeable, this just further pushes science, towards being even more OP in PvP.
But like I said, for PvEers, which most of the people are, this is gonna be like a free, get out of jail card. You're just gonna buy it for a couple million, and then you're not gonna, you're gonna worry much less about dying in PvP.
And just another note with it is, this is just yet another thing that makes the engineer class completely worthless in space.
As it has been all the way through, pretty much, of Stone's history. Okay, final ratings. Final ratings.
So
Dragon.
Wait a second. I still have a question about this. So it says infinite duration. If it's nukeable, how does it interact with subnucleonic carrier wave? Because that one says
infinite duration, and it removes highest duration buffs. But that's why I believe it's not going to be nukeable. Because
five longest duration buffs.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be nukeable. That's my assumption.
How did this calculated? Because infinite duration doesn't.
Well, look,
there is no duration basically.
Do you know any can you nuke battle ready? I don't think.
I think it's a blue buff. So.
Yeah, exactly. And most stacking mechanic traits, especially with high durations, are not nukeable. Remember, like what was it? You had. Like that battle ready, and then there's like other traits that stack, like improved battle to the metal, also blue. So I think this one's gonna be blue, unnukeable. And if it is nukeable, which is very unlikely, your subnucleonic carrier wave should remove it first. But like I said, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Wait
so
and see.
Final ratings on the ship as itself, for me, as I said again, turn rate. It's just not usable. I mean, with the trade, sure, you can use it because they're not going to die.
If you just want to be the big badass on the battlefield.
Yeah, we can't rate them without having tested it, basically. Could be either good, could be really bad. And the trade is just overpowered. The trade is a 20 out of 10. For me, it's so overpowered, it needs nerfing immediately.
It breaks everything.
But, yeah. And in the state where it is right now, the trade is so good that you basically need to buy it.
Yeah, but like I said, for most people, this is going to be just a box on the exchange that's going to be a couple million, unless people are going to be stockpiling them. Like, the rich guy is going to be like, oh, it's OP, we buy it. So watch out for that.
Yeah, Mega's got 200 stockpiled.
Yeah.
I have an update already. Honored Dead can be subnuked.
Oh, where's that from?
I just PM'd someone and asked.
Okay, that changed.
That
okay,
changes
guys,
everything.
I'm gonna uninstall the game. We'll see you like in the next episode. No, this is gonna be like, okay, my science has to become just refit it, because that's like a big thing. Although then again, a tactical that has like subnuclear and a carrier wave could also just get rid of it. So if it's nukeable, that's changing a lot. But even when you nuke it off, I guess it can immediately stack up again. So it's not that bad. But
but still, It's
okay, guys, new matter. Tax with subnuclear carrier wave in PvP.
So meta change again in PvP. We're thinking. No. So I just want to touch on, because we're coming up. We've done 40 minutes in this episode. We've got one more thing to cover. We're not going to go into too much detail because we're not that excited about it. But obviously, what we didn't have before is the new Mokai Raiders. Just small fighter craft. They have 1 disruptor, 1 beam array, 1 dual beam bank, and 1 aft disruptor beam array. With the powers fly her apart, purposefully destabilized warp core, and provide shield materials. Quick thoughts on these fighter craft? Anyone?
Seem pretty bad.
Garbage?
Yeah, they're garbage. You can't heal them even. I mean, if their warp core breach is gonna do 100,000 damage, okay. If they're gonna give you 100,000 temp hit points, okay. But unless that, no, not really.
No. So we'd never run these, would we? Let's be honest. And they look terrible.
Well,
as they did in Discovery, right?
if we're being real here, anyone like going for any serious performance is not going to be running this ship.
Yeah, anyone who's going for a total.
Unless you're doing it for looks.
Yeah.
So you would probably run these for looks. So there we are. So final thoughts, guys, because we've got to wrap it up on the Discovery Lockbox. Spencer, go. Final thoughts.
Lots of potentially good traits or consoles, but we just got to wait and see. Most of the ships aren't really that impressive compared to what we have already, so yeah.
Okay. And Omega?
Yeah, just like what he said, I'd give that box overall a 7. I mean, for the looks, I'd give it a 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the actual usability so far, it's a 7 out of 10. An utterly overpowered trait that's just going to push science and PvP even more forward and making PvE a kindergarten because everybody can run it and just not going to die.
Okay. And Dragon?
I mean, you have to give credit to the designers here because what they did, especially with the Discovery, the way the console looks, it's so cool, and then the cloak of the Klingon carrier, it's really cool.
And that in such a short time, like
yeah,
and that's pretty impressive, to be honest. We have seen so many ugly ships, but that lockbox just is really good. In terms of performance,
no, Karen.
Okay, in terms of performance, the ship set itself, the stats from the ships are, not really that good. And a few good consoles here.
So I think it's fair to say, guys, that if you're looking at the Discovery Lockbox, you're already going to look at a box that you're going to buy for the looks. The PvPers are probably going to want to try and get the trait, especially if you're on Fed, you're just going to buy that trait. But generally, until we see the consoles, it's more about getting that beautiful looking Discovery class vessel in your dock, and also getting that sarcophagus ship. If you are playing Klingon, as Omega said, you want to be the big bad guy with a massive ship, the highest current hull in the game, then you will be there. But if you want to, and also if you want to turn like crap because we're really slow, and you want to load dual cannons just to punish yourself even more, you can do that. So yeah, overall a good looking box, but time will tell. We'll keep an eye on the PvP meta, of course, and report that back in another Stowe show. But I just want to wrap it up here, guys, and I want to thank Dragon, Omega, and Spence for coming today. Thank you, guys.
No problemo.
Yep.
And it's good to have you, Spence, as well. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done something like this.
Crazy Stowe show talk. Well, we will see you guys in the then there's the next update that we can actually release something on. Hopefully it'll be the consoles. We'll get the guys together again if they're available, and we'll come back and we'll chat a bit about the consoles, see if we can give you some more depth on those. But I hope you've enjoyed watching as always. This has been Bane and GB Gaming. I'll put links to Spencer's channel as well in the description, as well as Omega's. Check them out. They do loads of Stowe videos, so especially Spencer's got some dating back years telling you all about cool stuff on Star Trek Online, and he's certainly a master of the craft. And don't forget to check out the Breakfast Club as a fleet if you're looking for what, in my opinion, one of the best fleets in Stowe at the moment, and I'm not biased, maybe a little bit. Then do come and contact one of us in game, and I'm sure we'd be happy to introduce you to our fleet, and it is a fantastic place to be. So as always, this is Bane.